Let's turn to the political tensions in Georgia following the disputed parliamentary election there. Many newly elected lawmakers boycotted the first sitting of parliament earlier this week. They say last month's vote was rigged in favor of the ruling pro-Russian Georgian Dream party. Critics of the government fear the result could derail Georgia's hopes of joining the EU. DW's Maria Katamadze reports.
This is the sound of anger. Georgian voters in front of the parliament building on Monday. They say the ruling Georgian Dream party stole the election and fear they will steal Georgia's European future too. Demonstrators claim the government is pro-Kremlin. They chant, "Russians, Russians." Inside, Georgian Dream MPs celebrated their victory, despite reports of election fraud by local and international observers. And the session starts with promises to keep the door to Europe open.
With peace, with dignity and with prosperity to Europe.
Opposition MPs boycotted the session, leaving their seats empty. They don't believe the government is pro-Europe and say the election was not clean. Anna Dolidze, an opposition politician, was elected but has renounced her mandate.
We saw people from security forces coming in and monitoring the output. We saw teachers taking part in controlling the election outcome on behalf of the government. Election administration completely controlled the government.
We asked people in Tbilisi what they thought.
If there were one or two violations among millions, that doesn't mean that the elections were not fair. Georgia has to be neutral and independent. We should have relations with everyone.
This level of falsification was unseen. If Europe closes its door on us and suspends visa liberalization for us, I don't think we will have a good future.
I was an observer and I share the opinion that there were some significant violations. You could see who voted for whom.
The elections were fair. We have the results that we were anticipating.
Georgia once saw itself on the way to joining NATO and the European Union, a beacon of liberal democracy in the complicated region.
If Western countries will go ahead in legitimating these elections, this would be a grave mistake with grave costs. In past 30 years, with a lot of trouble, with a lot of cost, with a lot of struggle, Georgia has remained a pro-Western bastion in the region. It was always difficult. We fought wars, but we persevered with our Western partners.
Georgia has a long history of long-lasting mass demonstrations. We asked an expert why, after Monday, people went home. Why do you think people are not coming out on the streets if they are not happy with the results?
There's no clear strategy among opposition parties how to cope with this problem. Sometimes they feel that there's no chance for any changes, and that's why they're not really enthusiastic also to join the rallies.
The crowds have gone, but critics of the election are waiting for the EU mission, which is set to arrive soon to investigate. The strange quiet on Tbilisi's streets could be short-lived.
Georgia's Moscow-leaning prime minister says his country is suspending its application process for the European Union until 2028. Pro-European protesters gathered outside the Georgian Dream Party's headquarters in the capital Tbilisi soon after Prime Minister Irakli Kobahice made the statement. It came just hours after he was reappointed to the job of prime minister by members of his party after its disputed victory in last month's parliamentary election. Now, Kobahice said Brussels' demands for membership amounted to what he called a rejection of Georgia's dignity. For its part, the EU already suspended Georgia's application process indefinitely back in June after Parliament passed a law requiring organizations with foreign funding to register as pursuing the interest of a foreign power.
We will continue moving towards the EU, yet we will not accept a state of permanent manipulation or blackmail, which is deeply offensive to our nation and people. We believe today's decision will significantly contribute to improving relations between Georgia and the EU.
Our correspondent Maria Katamadze is in Tbilisi, where thousands are protesting right now against that decision. So many people that Maria actually had to move away from the crowd to be able to get through to us. Maria, many people clearly do not agree with this. Why is the government pushing it through?
So, yeah, I did move away, but hopefully you can see on the background the riot police that is mobilized not far away from the parliament. Now, people seem to, view this government, at least people who came here at the square, their government as Russian government. And they say that their European future is at stake, their historical choice is at stake. And that's why they are so furious and angry that the government has sort of, for time being, at least rejected this possibility for them, the possibility that they've been tirelessly fighting for many decades. And it was very interesting to see the president joining in the protests and approaching one of the police officers and asking whether he was serving Georgians or Russia.
Now, give us some more context as to why the Georgian government wants to suspend these EU membership talks.
Well, there are some concerns among the pro-Western Georgians about their government and their sort of genuine ambitions to become EU. Now, Georgians, most of the Georgians, more than 80%, are supportive of the Euro-Atlantic path, and it is also enshrined in the constitutions, the Euro-Atlantic path, and they see that the government is leaning towards Moscow and is been increasingly anti-Western since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and that's why they've been protesting, and they are also angry about the disputed elections that many believe here were rigged by the ruling party that have, in their view, in the protesters and critics' view, captured the election administration, judiciary, and they say that for us, it is difficult to make any change, but now people seem so angry that they're coming out on the streets, and the president urged to stand together, otherwise there will be nothing to stand for very soon. That's what she said.
Is this, Maria, the end of the road for Georgia's European dream then?
Well, it's important to mention that the elections were partly recognized by states like Hungary, China, neighboring states, Armenia, Azerbaijan, but it doesn't receive any Western recognition as for now. The EU is sending the fact-finding mission, and definitely Georgian Dream government still wants to have this sort of Western recognition, otherwise it will be very isolated, which doesn't seem to be a popular idea with, among many Georgians. So it depends whether the opposition and the president and civil society groups and the protesters will be able to pressure the government more to challenge those election results and to, call for new elections, which at this point seems a bit unrealistic if we look at the stance of the government, who says that they won fair and square, that their victory is uncontestable.
But those thousands of protesters that we just saw there in the city center of Tbilisi holding on to hope. That was DW correspondent Maria Katamadze in Tbilisi. Thank you so much.